Professor Gopchetti.
It's okay. Yeah, thank you. So, on behalf of Sanskrit Club IIT Roorkee, I welcome you all, and I'm glad to be part of this initiative, which Sanskrit Club has taken in association with a team of 1996 batch of IIT Roorkee, erstwhile University of Roorkee. As part of Gift of Knowledge, we are going to witness a few lectures followed by interaction from the team members of 1996 batch. And I'm also looking forward to the Karmaniya Vadikaristha lecture series. I hope in this pandemic situation, this kind of thoughts and experience shared by our alumnus will be useful. And with this, I request Shri Anurag Gupta to give some idea about this lecture series and start the lecture, followed by the interaction. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Anil Gorishetty. It's a pleasure and an honor to address our fellow Roorkeeites, present Roorkeeites, some faculty and other colleague and batchmates of mine from 1996 batch. So thank you very much for welcoming us and for giving us this opportunity to share something from this very glorious Granth, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And I will start the session with a auspicious invocation known as Mangalacharan. In our Vaishnav tradition, we begin typically by offering our respects to Lord Shri Krishna, who is the Adi Guru and the source of all knowledge. We also offer our respects to our teachers, from whom actually we received this knowledge about Lord Krishna. So this is known as Mangalacharan. Mangal means auspicious, auspiciousness, and that is what we want to invoke, that our endeavor be very auspicious and bring some good fruits for us in the near future. So I will recite this prayer. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamarupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I like to give a little introduction about myself, because many of you who are assembled here may not know about me. Some of you may not know about my life after 1996 batch. So this slide might bridge that gap. So I really welcome everyone on this show. And my name is Anurag Gupta. I passed out from University of Roorkee in 1996 as a chemical engineer, graduate in the chemical engineering branch. At the moment, I am working with Shell Projects and Technology in Bangalore, and my position is Senior Heat Transfer Engineer. If any one of you who are from the chemical engineering background, probably you can relate to what does heat transfer would mean, but I just don't want to dwell a lot on that topic right now. After I graduated from University of Roorkee in the chemical engineering branch, life actually took me to some people, connected with me some books, and one of those books of wisdom was Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which inspired me, which actually helped me answering many of the mysteries that life presents before us. And as time passed, I became more and more interested, and took this study of Bhagavad Gita a little more seriously, and became a little more serious, so that I started to dedicate my life more and more towards spreading this knowledge to others. I felt that if it can help me, maybe it can help others as well. So in that process, I took initiation in the Vaishnava tradition, which is a little more serious commitment towards spiritual practices. And when you take initiation, you are given a different name. And I was given a name Keshav Gopal Das. So sometimes you might see some messages from me, or some people addressing me as Keshav Gopal, and so on. So two names, Anurag Gupta is my legal name, and within the Vaishnava devotee circle, I am typically known as or addressed as Keshav Gopal Das. My study of Bhagavad Gita is spanned for around, say, 15-16 years, probably 20 years when I was started to uh, flip the pages of the book. But a little more systematic and a more serious study started 15-16 years ago, when I came in contact with people from the ISKCON Hare Krishna movement. Also, to have a more systematic understanding of Bhagavad Gita, I also took up a course uh, conducted by ISKCON Board of Exams, and got this certificate of Bhakti Shastri, in which 4 books are taught. One is Bhagavad Gita, the second one is the Isha Upanishad, third one is Updesha Amrita, and fourth one is Bhakti Rasa Amrit Sindhu. This course typically span, say, of around 1 year time, and Bhagavad Gita is one of the most prominent and takes the most time to study and complete this certificate course. And then I started teaching myself some of these lessons, some of these courses myself. So at the moment, I'm teaching a course on Bhagavad Gita in Hindi, and also a course on Ishopanishad to a group of people in English. So that's a little introduction about myself. I hope that is relevant to the occasion. And now I would like to request uh, Gunjan Tiwari, our batchmate from 1996, who was kind of the mother of initiating this gift of knowledge series, and requesting us, reaching out all of us, hearing all our arguments and debates about whether we should do it, not do it, how should we do it, and so on. But ultimately, we are doing it, and really like to request Gunjanji to kindly explain what this gift of knowledge is, and so that we can kickstart our lecture today. Over to you, Gunjanji.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this gift of knowledge is one of the initiatives that we have from our batch of 1996. It was, I think, I totally believe it is Lord Krishna's arrangement that we all came together, that we, in some conversations, we just came to know that many of us are following spiritual paths, similar spiritual paths, and into this mode of giving it to others, sharing it with others. And so very organically, by one-on-one conversations putting together, we all decided that one of the best things that we can give to anybody is this gift of knowledge. And since we were in the process of coming up with ideas of celebrating our 25th anniversary of graduation, we were thinking of so many ways of giving back to our alma mater, University of Roorkee, which is now IIT Roorkee, which all of us love very greatly. And we thought we can give 3 types of gifts. Either gift of one is gift of money. So a lot of us, thought of donating money towards various things. Another one is gift of health, and then the third one that we came up with was gift of knowledge, in which we thought that we could share the spiritual knowledge that many of us have luckily received in our lives after we graduated from Roorkee, and we thought uh, that if we can impart it to the students or young people who are the future leaders of society, that will be a great service that we can do. Uh, and so, with that motive, we started brainstorming, and finally, after many months, we and with Lord Krishna's mercy, we came in touch with Dr. Anil Gauri Shetty. Amit Agrawal, our batchmate, he was instrumental in making all these things happen. He connected various people together, and then with that, Dr. Gauri Shetty kindly introduced our batch people with the Sanskrit group, including students and faculty members. It was a great conversation that we had with all of you, and thank you for inviting us uh, to inviting us and enabling this series to happen. We really, really are very grateful to you to uh, really making this happen. So we have experienced a lot of benefits in our lives. I can say personally in my life, I experienced a lot of benefits. A lot of my questions that I was growing up with got clarified, and I think it's the same emotion that is echoed by anybody who does a serious study of Bhagavad Gita, and we want to pass it forward to whoever is interested, and especially right now we want to reach out to the students at IIT Roorkee who are the future leaders of the society. So thank you so much, Anurag. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Gunjan.
If I have missed anything, please feel free to add.
Yeah. I would want to mention here, when you mentioned that point about students at IIT Roorkee are the future leaders of society. So like to little bit develop a little bit more on that point, because what now whom we are addressing today are really some very, very gifted and very, very intellectually uh, capable people. And certainly they are going to lead the society in the future. And why this gift of knowledge is really important for the leaders of the society in the future is because it help us make the right decision. So the education system right now broadly is geared towards how to make a living. We can get a good job, we can get good careers, we can make good in terms of material success from the present education. However, in general, the education system at large, be it a school education or a university education or maybe postgraduate education, largely misses on how to live. So Gita, Bhagavad Gita, popularly people know as life manual, a manual of life. And how does the leadership is connected with Gita? Because leaders have to make these decisions. They may know how to do certain things, but what to do and what is the right thing to do is something which is very important to understand. And if we understand it through the eyes of the scriptures, through the eyes of the wisdom that these scriptures like Bhagavad Gita provides us, it help us to put or to calibrate our decision making in the right way. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna also appeals to the leadership intellect of Arjuna by reciting one of these verses, which is Yad Yad Acharati Shreshthas Tat Tat Deve Taro Janaha Sa Yat Pramanam Kurute Lokasta Adum Vartate. Whatever action great man performs, common man follow. And whatever standards he set by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So as leaders of the future, the students at IIT Roorkee, if they develop this deep interest in this great wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, actually not only it will benefit themselves, but because they are leaders, they will actually be able to impact and influence the people whom they will connect with in a big way. So so with that, I would like to start this session. And when I start this session, we had a little discussion on what to do, how to initiate, and so on. And we kind of agreed on this topic called Karmanye Vadhikaraste. So a little bit 2 minutes on why did we select this topic of Karmanye Vadikaraste? Because it is a very, very popular topic, and specifically in India, people, when they hear about Srimad Bhagavad Gita, oh, that book which says Karmanye Vadikaraste. So it's something like synonymous with Gita. And hopefully, maybe a large audience who is present here may also feel that it is Karmanye Vadikaraste is the main verse in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So the idea was that let us begin with addressing a topic from where people actually connects with from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and let us use this theme as a bridge to explore further the insights in Bhagavad Gita. However, when we will explore this topic, you will realize that Karmanye Vadikaraste actually is an important message of Gita, but that is not the end of the story. Actually, that is something which is only a very small part of the story. And the verse itself actually gives us a big hint that there is much more to it. So let us begin. Let us begin this journey of exploring Bhagavad Gita from something we identify with, from something which we actually relate with, and that topic is Karmanye Vadikaraste. So the picture that I've used, the picture that I've used in this slide, actually it's a very common picture you will see in people's drawing rooms, offices, sometimes on the airports also, specifically the airports in India, where government is trying to connect people with their own culture and roots and so on. However, as I said, this is only a tip of the iceberg. Much more lies underneath that surface. So let us explore. So before we dive or analyze this message in much more greater detail, let us become a little more familiar with the verse, the text, the Sanskrit text as it appears in the book. We will also look at the word meanings and try to increase our familiarity so that the message becomes a little more apparent and more effective. So I will recite this verse. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturvur ma te sangostva karmani. Now let us look at the meaning of each of these lines. I have color coded these lines for easy identification. And 1, 2, 3, and 4, there are 4 lines here. Let us look at the meaning of each one of those. Karmanyev adhikaraste. So karma is action. Adhikaraste means right, and eva means certainly. Karmanyeva adhikaraste. Te means you. So what it means is that Lord Krishna is addressing to Arjuna, who was confused on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He was not clear what to do, what decision to take, whether to fight or not to fight. Now Lord Krishna is trying to encourage Arjuna uh, through this verse. He's saying, Karmanyev adhikaraste. You have the right to do your action. Then ma phaleshu kadachana. And then although it is not mentioned in the second line, but it implies that you do not have the exclusive right to the results of your action. Ma phaleshu kadachana. You have the right to do your action, but you do not have the right to the results of your action. I have used in bracket exclusive, which is not mentioned in the words, but I will explain why the exclusive is mentioned here. Then ma karma phal heturbhu. Do not think yourself as the only cause of the results. Ma karma phala heturbhu. Ma means not, karma means action, and phala is actually the result. Hetu is the cause, and bhur is become. Do not think yourself as the cause of the results. Again, I have added only here, which does not appear in the original text. So we'll explain why I have added that. And then mate sango stva karmani. And do not be attached to not doing your work. So it goes like this. Oh Krishna, oh Arjuna, you have the right to do your action, but you do not have the right to the results of your action. Do not think yourself as the cause of the results. Do not be attached to not doing your work. Now, couple of words on why I have added exclusive here and only here. So the use of exclusive and only is mainly to align with the broader meaning and the larger message of the Gita. So from this, if you read Ma Phaleshu Kadachana, Ma Phaleshu Kadachana would mean that you do not have the right to the results of your action. So that actually implies that Arjuna, whatever he may do, he actually doesn't can influence the action. But if you read Bhagavad Gita, for example, in chapter number 5 and in chapter number 18, where Lord Krishna further elaborates on what are the other causes of results, there he also identifies that the person who does that work or does that activity actually also has some share or some influence towards the result of his action. And that is why I have added exclusive here and only here. Do not think yourself as the only cause of the result. So the person who does the result, if he doesn't desire or if he doesn't make an action or doesn't initiate any action, how will the result come? So the person who is performing the action actually also has the stakeholder or is also the stakeholder in the results, but he is not the only stakeholder in the results. And that's what uh, uh, is the main message of this verse. It gives you some glimpse of who is the owner of the action and who actually are the owners of the results of the action. Now let us look at some of the word meanings. I have identified 6 words from the verse. Karma, which probably generally you will know, it can be translated as action or duty. Adhikar, it is translated as right. Now, people in this present age are very fond of using their adhikar. So that is the main word here. Adhikar, you can also translate it as privilege. You can also translate it as entitlement. Then phaleshu. Phaleshu means results or fruits. Hetu means the cause. Sangha, sangha, mate sango astavi karmani. Akarmani means no action or not doing any action or not doing any duty. And sangha means do not be attached to doing your action or not doing your action or not doing your duty. Now, let us simplify this Sanskrit word, the words which is presented in Sanskrit and a little more cryptic language in a much more simplified way. So as I broken down this verse in 4 lines, I have tried to simplify this verse here in line 1, line 4, line 2 and 3. So basically, this is now boiling down to 2 things. One is line 1 says, be dutiful, be action oriented and be responsible. Line 4 actually is the opposite of line 1, which says, do not be irresponsible and do not be lazy. So practically line 1 and line 4 are saying one and the same thing. One is saying in affirmative. The second line is saying in the opposite. Be dutiful, be action oriented and be responsible, which implies do not be irresponsible or do not be lazy. So this is the first message from this verse, that be dutiful, be action oriented and be responsible. The second message is line 2 and 3, which also can be clubbed into one line, which says Ma Phaleshu Kadachana. You do not have the entitlement or you do not have the exclusive right for the results of your action. Now, as I was mentioning in the beginning of my talk, that this verse is an important verse, but actually it hints us to a larger detail of things which are present in Bhagavad Gita. So what it does, it says line 2 and 3. Line 2 and 3 says that you do not consider yourself, Lord Krishna is telling now to Arjuna, that do not think yourself as the having the exclusive right for the results of your work. Now that raises a question, then who does have the exclusive right for the results of your action? Are there other factors also involved? Are there other issues also involved which decide the outcome of our action? And that is where Bhagavad Gita actually points us toward much bigger scheme of things, and that's what Lord Krishna actually explains to Arjuna in the whole Bhagavad Gita, how Arjuna is only one small entity in the whole scheme of things that the Lord actually has designed in this universe. And that is how Lord Krishna connects Arjuna slowly and gradually towards using different techniques to Arjuna, to that bigger scheme of things. And first of all, in this presentation today, we will analyze deeply into this karmanya adhikaraste aspect, and then I will try to take you towards those aspects which are the other factors, the X factor. There are other factors that decide the outcome of our action, and what are those factors, and should we be concerned about those factors? Are they really important about us? And how do they shape our thinking? How do they shape our psychology? How do they shape our action? How do they shape our say kind of response to the results that we get, and so on? So let us further dwell on this. Yeah. Okay. Now, when we were talking about these other factors, as in the previous slide, now let us simplify in a simple words. Let us understand what are these other factors by taking some common examples, or one or two examples in our life. Let us analyze what are these factors. So now, when we, since I'm dealing with engineers, I'm dealing with technical people, let me put this verse into a form of an equation. Now, the outcome of this equation is phala. Phala means the result. Whatever action we do it for some phala. We do it for some gain. We don't do it for unnecessarily. We don't do it. Whatever we do, we want that some outcome is to be there, and the positive outcome should be there. Should be favorable to us. Should benefit us. So I have broken this phala thing into its constituents here in this equation. And this equation is karma plus daiva plus kala. The second bullet is actually the English translation of all this: karma, daiva, kala, and phala. So karma is duty, daiva is destiny, kala is duration, means time, phala is actually the desired result, what we want, what is favorable to us. Now let us understand this equation with the help of a small common example, which is an example of a farmer plowing the field. So the farmer has to do its duty. Duty means he has to plow the field, he has to sow the seeds. That much that he has to do it. If he doesn't do this, then there will be no phala. If this is not there, then the phala will not be there. So now relating this point to the use of word exclusive and the use of word other factors in my translation in the previous slide. So that is what I want to explain, that if the farmer doesn't initiate the action, there will not be any phala. Then daiva means destiny, which means when the farmer plows the seed, plows the land and sows the seed, there has to be rains. The rains also has to be timely and in the right quantity. If the rains are too much, there will be flood. If the rains are not there, or less rains are there, that is also not good for the crop. And if the rain comes do not come timely, maybe if the rain comes when the crop is already there, sometimes the crops are damaged. So the rains have to be timely and in the right quantity. That is destiny. So this is something which is the second factor which decides the phala. The third aspect is kala. Kala means duration. So the farmer should expect that a certain time should pass before he can expect the crop to grow and he can harvest the crop. So when the right season comes, then the harvesting will be done, and that is the duration. So for any phala, any outcome of the result, these three factors are primarily there, which is karma, duty, daiva, destiny, kala, duration. Okay, so now when I have introduced you in the previous slide, I gave you that what are the other factors which the verse number 2.47 hints us. Then we went to the slide of destiny, and I explained you the other factors, and these factors are destiny and kala, time. Hmm. Now let us look a little bit more detailed definition of destiny. And I have presented two definitions of destiny. One is a simplified version, and the second one is a more philosophical version. Philosophical version means how Srimad Bhagavad Gita defines destiny. Hmm. But the simple definition for a layman's purpose is factors that shape the result beyond our control. So many times we are trying to achieve some result, we are trying to endeavor something, but many times we see there are factors which are beyond our control and we are not successful. And people in India who are very fond of cricket would can relate it easily, that even the best batsman in the world is always not so very comfortable or confident that, so today is the day that I'm going to score a century. And that day, maybe the previous test match he may have scored a century, but in the next test match he may very well score a zero, although he doesn't want to score a zero. He dearly wants to score a century, but he sometimes score a zero. So those are the factors that shape the result which are beyond our control. And that is where Srimad Bhagavad Gita actually tells us what are those factors which are beyond our control. Now, in the language of Bhagavad Gita, how do we understand this role of destiny? So the philosophical definition is destiny can be defined as reactions to our past actions that will unfold in our present and potential future. I will repeat, reactions to our past actions that will unfold in our present and future. Now I am taking you to a territory which is a little bit unknown, or which potentially could be unknown for maybe most of you who are not so familiar with Bhagavad Gita, or who are not so familiar with maybe philosophical texts, Vedic texts, and so on. And I have here in the second bullet, I have used words like karma and law of karma. Now, karma means what? Karma has four potential meanings. The word karma has four potential meanings. One is a very common meaning. Any activity we do, any action we do, a normal action, maybe eating food, sleeping, we call it karma. Hmm? Any action, normal action, or a routine action that we do is known as karma. The second understanding of the word karma is prescribed duty, and you can say kartavya. Hmm? Prescribed duty means kartavya. Kartavya means that we are supposed to do. As students, as teachers, as employees of a particular organization, we are expected to do certain duty. So the karma is also translated as duty. But karma, and in the verse 2.47, when I was explaining you the word meaning, actually I have given you the two meanings there. Karmanye vadhikarasya. So the karma means either action or duty. But now I'd like to introduce you to two more meanings of this word karma. So one is karma is, the word karma is also used as in general in Vedic text as reaction to our past actions. I am sick because of my karma. I am not feeling well, or I got this failure because of my karma. You might have heard many times people saying something like that, specifically people who are from Indian origin, who are from Indian subcontinent would typically relate it faster than maybe others. So karma is also means reaction to our past action. Then the other all meaning is also law of karma. So generally when we say karma, the fourth meaning is we are alluding to, or we are relating it with the law of karma. Law of karma means law of action and reaction. Say, like you might have heard, whatever you will sow, so shall you reap. जैसा बोओगे वैसा काटोगे. अगर मैं किसी व्यक्ति को, if I slap somebody walking on the street, that person might get angry with me and might slap me back. So I actually did something wrong to other, and I actually got the result immediately. So that is something which is law of karma. Now coming back to the philosophical definition, how does this destiny is actually shaped up? So this destiny is shaped up by the reactions of our past actions, and which is we have done in the past, and that actually unfold to us in our present life, or are maybe going to unfold to us in our future life. And that is where the factor kala, the factor kala means the factor time in the previous equation that I had showed you. That's where the factor actually comes into play. I hope this slide is clear, because now we are moving slowly into the philosophical domain of Bhagavad Gita. So far, it was more towards okay, duty, action. We can actually also influence the action to some extent. That can be related easily, but now we are now moving towards a more philosophical domain. So I hope the point is clear so far now. Okay. Now, when I have introduced you with this topic of karma, law of karma, action and reaction, and so on, let me now connect this concept of karma and destiny together. And let me now give you a little more simplified definition of the word karma. Karma, now I'm here referring to the third meaning of the word karma. Third meaning of the word karma is action and reaction. Action and reaction means, or the reaction of something which we have done in the past. I have done some bad action in the past. I am going to get a bad reaction for it. I did a good action in the past. I'm going to get a good reaction for that. So that is the meaning I'm using here. So the karma actually is the baggage that we bring with us when we are born. Generally, people think that when a person is born, it's a clean slate. There's nothing written there. We can actually make that destiny. We can actually write our destiny on that slate. So to some extent, that statement is correct. It is not that that statement is fully wrong. To some extent, that is correct. But the fact that we are coming here in this world when we are born, we are bringing a clean slate with us, needs some attention. So it is not like that. From the Vedic perspective, from the perspective of Bhagavad Gita, it is not like that. When we are born, we bring with us together a baggage. A baggage of what? A baggage of past actions that we have done in our previous lives. Now I'm introducing to you another concept. Oh, is there a previous life also? Huh? Did we exist in the previous life also? Or did we had any other identity before we actually came in this world, as maybe Anurag Gupta, or maybe Anil Gauri Shetty, or maybe Deepak, or maybe whatever? Now that is another concept. So we will slowly progress towards all those concepts. So karma is baggage that we bring with us when we are born. So we are not born with a clean slate. We come here with some baggage. We already have some karma in the past, and that karma is going to unfold to us in this life, or maybe in the future life. So when you open this bag, you will come to know there's a pant, there's a trouser, there's a undergarments, there is maybe some gift, there is some maybe some obnoxious looking object also. So when we open this baggage, when this baggage unfolds in our life, which we don't know actually when we are born, what we have brought with us, that is called as destiny. So I have given you several definitions of destiny: something which is not within our control, something which we bring as part of our karma and that unfolds us within our life, and something which is a result of the reactions of our past actions, and so on. So that brings to the next point, that destiny actually is not arbitrary. We might be thinking that maybe if I started to do some work today and the work was not successful, or the batsman wanted to really score a century and probably got out on zero, was it just a chance? Was it just a fluke? No, as per Bhagavad Gita, that is not a fluke. Actually, that is something related to the karma of the past life. So that brings us to the next topic, or the next concept, that destiny is not arbitrary. Destiny is not arbitrary. That invisible baggage, when we are born, we don't come with a suitcase, isn't it? So that baggage is actually invisible. We don't see that, but that baggage is there. And that baggage, when it unfolds in our this life, that is known as destiny. One batsman, uh, uh, there are two batsmen, huh? Both are graduating from the same school. Both are equally good. Both actually were dear to their teachers. One batsman actually becomes very successful, becomes a Sachin Tendulkar, uh, the greatest batsman in the world. The other batsman actually becomes Vinod Kambli, actually doesn't become so successful, although maybe to some extent successful, but doesn't become a Sachin Tendulkar also. What explains that? So it is something called destiny, and destiny and karma are linked. We decide our destiny based on our karma. So that is the main message in this slide. Let us move ahead. Now that brings us to this another point. People might ask, is everything destined? Should I if everything is destined, then what is the point? Let me just go with the flow, and whatever unfolds in my life, uh, let it go on like that. But no, it is not like that. Everything is not destined. As we understood from the previous slide, our karma shapes our destiny. Hmm. So the answer is no, everything is not destined. A lot, not everything. A lot depends upon our karma. A lot depends upon our karma. So the message is that we should actually focus on what is in our control, and do not be obsessed on what is not in our control, because in our life certainly they are going to be, our karma from the previous life is going to unfold before us. And a good person or a more sober person is who actually don't obsess much on what is going to be unfolding in our life, which is not in our control, but he will focus more on what is in our control. So uh, now, connecting this thought of focus on what is in our control and do not be obsessed on what is not in our control, with the modern day thought process of some very prominent self-help book authors. For example, Stephen Covey. So Stephen Covey, in his books, Seven Habits of Great People, have introduced this concept of circle of control and circle of concern. Hmm. He has introduced this concept of circle of control and circle of concern. Let us look what Stephen Covey has shown. So this is what Stephen Covey has shown: circle of concern, and then in between there is a circle of influence, and then in the center is circle of control. So what is this circle of control? These are immediate tasks that we can do now to create inertia and energy. Now these are in our control, what we can do. This, what is this? From verse number 2.47, this is karmanyev adhikaraste. This is in our control. We have the right to do our action. We have the right to do our duty. This is circle of control. But ma phaleshu kadachana, that is circle of influence and circle of concern. Circle of influence is medium term activities that can influence our longer term goals, that we have some influence over, not all. Some influence is there, where maybe we have a friend, we can approach our friend, okay, can you help me? Most likely the friend is going to help us, but not fully guaranteed. Similarly, we have a circle of concern. What is circle of concern? These are the longer term goals and ambitions we aim for. We want to graduate from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. That is my goal. The students actually really aspire for such a goal, but may happen, may not happen. It's a very tough competition out there. In my time, actually, there were 1 lakh people, 1 lakh students used to compete for that. Now, maybe it might have increased many folds. So circle of concern, we cannot influence this. So circle of concern is we want to go there, but we may not have full influence there. So like that. So trying to relate the message of Bhagavad Gita to the modern day thinkers. So the modern day thinkers actually come up with these theories, but these theories are already a part of the text like Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavad Gita actually talks much more about than simple the philosophies present in the modern self-help books. Now, let us move ahead. So this slide is talking about what if my deva is not favorable to me. Hmm. So as I was mentioning in the previous slide, that sometimes people who are destiny oriented, who are only thinking that destiny is the only way and whatever is happening in my life is simply a result of destiny. This is something this slide is actually trying to address that part. If I do not do my work and if my deva is not favorable, then what is the use? Let my deva take control and whatever happens in my life, let it happen. And since my deva is in control, I can't do much. Now, to answer to that question, the answer is it may happen or it may appear like that my deva is not favorable to me, but our karma actually contributes to our future deva, our future destiny. So whatever action we decide to do now, we are shaping our future destiny by doing our actions today. So it is not that we are our deva is simply an arbitrary thing. It goes as it likes. No, we can control our deva if we do the right actions today. We can control our deva. The understanding that our karma will not go waste help us to become detached with the outcome and the result. And this knowledge also help us to become motivated and focused. So that is what the benefit of this theory or this philosophy of karma, daiva, and so on. So the idea is in this slide is that our karma, whatever we'll do today, will not go waste. It will contribute to our future daiva, and this may manifest within this lifetime or within the next lifetime. So that is another concept, or just now short while ago I introduced this concept of previous life, and now also introducing the concept of next life. So the common understanding of people at large is that this is the only life we get, but Bhagavad Gita tells us or give us a much bigger picture. It is not that this is the only life we get. We had a life before this and we will have a life even after this. And that is something which take us to another two more important concepts explained and discussed in Bhagavad Gita, which is the concept of reincarnation and the concept of soul. So once we understand that our karma does not go waste, this information, this understanding of life help us to become detached with the outcome. Okay, I have to do my duty. And certainly if I do my duty now in the right way, in the right spirit, it is going to help me in the future. It is going to shape my daiva. It is going to shape my destiny in the future. Although I understand that because of my past baggage, result may not come as favorable as I desire, but I should continue to strive to do my duty because it is going to shape my deva in the future. And maybe if the Lord decides, if the Lord is merciful enough, I may get the result in this life. But if not in this life, maybe I may get results in the next life. So this understanding of scheme of things help us to become detached from the outcome of the result. We are not kind of affected if we are failure. We are not becoming obsessed, or we are not becoming really proud of if we are successful. And this knowledge help us keep motivated and focused. So this is the benefit of the understanding of verse 2.47, or also the benefit of understanding the larger scheme of things. And what are the larger scheme of things? The larger scheme of things are, this is not the only life we are living now. We have been living this life before we were born, and we will continue to live a life after we are dead, after we passed away, and so on. Okay, now let us address some of the misunderstandings around this verse 2.47. And one of the common misunderstanding is that we actually confuse between results and goals. one of the common misunderstanding is that we think that phala actually means goals. So there is a difference between results and goals. So because of this misunderstanding, what people think is karmanneva vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So I don't have any control over the phala. So why bother about phala? Be detached. Be detached. Be like a sadhu. Be carefree and so on, like that. So this slide is trying to help you and put the right perspective of that will avoid any misunderstanding, or you will be able to answer those people who misunderstand this word, or who are something not taking this verse in a proper spirit. Like in India, generally this verse is translated as कर्म किए जा फल की चिंता मत कर. So this is one version, चिंता मत कर. The second version is कर्म किए जा फल की इच्छा मत कर. कर्म किए जा फल की इच्छा मत कर, कर्म किए जा फल की चिंता मत कर. Now the original text did not talk about chinta or did not talk about iksha. Chinta means worry, iksha means desire. But what did it talk about? It talk about adhikar. Karmanneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. You have an entitlement to do your duty. You have the privilege to do your duty. You have the right to do your duty, but you don't have the right, you don't have the privilege, you don't have the entitlement to the results. So nowhere iksha is there, desire, nowhere worry is there, chinta. So कर्म किए जा फल की इच्छा मत कर, cross. कर्म किए जा फल की चिंता मत कर, और फल की इच्छा मत कर, cross. So those are two misleading interpretation of these words which we need to understand. Now, to understand the difference between chinta, iksha, and so on, if we understand this concept or difference between what is the difference between result and goal, we will be able to understand it better. So sometimes people understand that phal means goals. Karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So the phala mentioned here actually is referring to goal. But there is a difference between phala and the result and the goal. The result is actually something which we get after we do the action. And the goals are something are set before we do the action. So we set a goal. I have to become an engineer from Indian Institute of Technology. That is the goal I set. I set this goal before I embark upon the study. But after I do the study, after I write my entrance exam, then the result comes. I either get selected in the exam or I don't get selected in the exam. So the results are something which we get after we do the action, and the goals are something which are before we do the action. So that is the difference between the results and the goal. So generally people confuse the word result and goal interchangeably. So they think that results are actually referring to goal, and we don't need to set any goals. We are simply it is simply we should be detached with the goals, and that's how what this verse means. But verse 2.47 doesn't mean that we should not set goals. So Bhagavad Gita is not against setting goals. So set goals and get results. So that is the mantra, or that is the sutra here. So we all need goals to be motivated in our life. We need to make goals. We need to plan things. Even in Vedic texts like Mahabharata, the Kurukshetra war, if you read that Kurukshetra war, the soldiers will get up in the morning and will plan for the war, will strategize for the war. How I am going to fight today, what will be our strategy? There was a strategy to make a Chakravyuh to trap Arjuna and so on. And then even Arjuna set a goal, a very, very tough goal for himself. On one of the days when Abhimanyu was killed in Mahabharata, Arjuna was very furious. He was really shocked when hearing this news that his dear son Abhimanyu was killed. And out of his anger, out of his fury, he actually declared that today, tomorrow, next day, by the sunset, I'm going to kill Jaydrath, because Jaydrath was instrumental in trapping Arjuna or trapping Abhimanyu, and that's why he got killed. So Arjuna himself set a goal to kill Jaydrath. That time Krishna did not say, my dear Arjuna, I told you, karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. No, he did not say that. Actually, he supported Arjuna, although he criticized that you set up too tough a goal and Kauravas will take advantage of your declaration that you are bound to kill Jayadratha. If you don't kill him, you are going to commit suicide. So that's what Lord Krishna criticized Arjuna, but he supported that, yes, we should do that. So Gita is not against setting of goals, but because goals keeps us motivated, even in texts like Mahabharata and Vedic text, goal setting is there. So we are talking about results versus goals. Then analyzing it a little more deeply, to give you an example of goals, destiny, and results, I'll give you a very simple example. We may have a goal to reach for a meeting by 10 a.m. Destiny might decide that there might be a very heavy traffic jam on the way. Normally it is clear, but that particular day, because there was a political rally going on in the neighborhood, which you probably could not plan for or you did not know about, there was a lot of traffic jam, and the result could be that maybe you were late for the meeting, or maybe you could manage it and you could reach on time. You could find out some alternative way to reach on time, or the traffic jam was so heavy that you had to cancel the plan, or maybe because the traffic was so bad that you met with an accident. So goal was reached for the meeting by 10 a.m. but the result was you were late, you were on time, or cancel the plan or accident. This is an example which we can understand clearly the difference between goal, destiny, and results. So a couple of slides more remaining. Maybe I might overshoot by a few minutes and we'll take some questions after that. So detachment and irresponsible, what is the difference? So sometimes we become irresponsible if we don't understand this verse 2.47 in a proper spirit. So irresponsible means not to endeavor for the result. Detachment means not to be obsessed about the results, not to be obsessed. Detachment help us work effectively. For example, if we are preparing for an exam, or we are sitting for number of exams, number of subjects, and one fine day, one subject exam doesn't go so well. So what happens is people become really obsessed. People become really disturbed. Oh, my exam did not go well. What will happen? I should not actually try for another one. Since I will anyway going to fail, I should not try for any other one, like that. So detachment means that we don't get obsessed with the result. We don't get carried away with the result. So we prepare for the next exam when the previous exam was not well. So we will be detached. No problem. Maybe this one was not went well. Maybe the question paper itself was very hard, and generally in other people or other students also may not have done as good. And it is not me only who is suffering from this problem. But now whatever happened has happened. I now focus on my next exam, and let me be detached. So that is what the detachment and irresponsible mean. Irresponsible means not even endeavoring for the result. The farmer not even deciding to sow the seed, not even deciding to plow the field. The person who is going for the meeting doesn't even decide, doesn't even wake up in the morning to try even endeavor to go to the meeting. So the knowledge of this verse actually help us to make responsible, and this detachment help us to work very enthusiastically and resourcefully. Now, concluding this talk, how the whole thing is now connected with the idea of the soul. You might have seen the poster of this talk. On top of the poster, it was Karmanye Vadikaraste, and at the bottom of the poster, you saw one line, Yat Shre Shyanishchitam Bruhi Tanme. What is that complicated Sanskrit line? Maybe the Sanskrit club student would have picked up, but Yat Shre Shyanishchitam Bruhi Tanme. And what is the connection between the two? So the connection between the two is, I have already explained in the talk that whatever action we do today will bear the fruit tomorrow. The fruit may manifest in this life or in next life. But if we do the right action, certainly the fruit is going to come. Maybe not in this life, maybe in the next life. And that is where we come to the concept of next life. That is where we come to the concept of immortality. That is where we come to the concept of soul. We cannot accept the concept of next life unless we explain the concept of immortality. And when we have to explain the concept of immortality, we have to understand the concept of soul, which is the central and the most fundamental understanding that Bhagavad Gita starts with. Hmm? The concept of reincarnation, the concept of soul, and so on. And the discussion on the concept of soul triggers when Arjuna asks a question from Lord Krishna, and that is where the whole Bhagavad Gita starts. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna doesn't ask Krishna, should I fight or should I not fight? So the answer from Krishna would be simply, yes, you should fight. And actually he gave that answer in Bhagavad Gita. But Arjuna asked a much bigger question. Arjuna asked a much bigger question. Arjuna asked this question. कार्पण्य दोषोपहता स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढ़ चेतः यच्छ्रेषान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्. What does it mean? What was the question of Arjuna? Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking to you to please tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So the question is, Yat Shreshan Nishchitam Bruhitan me. Yat Shreshan Nishchitam Bruhitan me. So what does it mean? Please tell me, I am asking you for certain what is best for me. So this is the question what Arjuna asks Lord Krishna, which triggers the larger question, or which triggers the recitation of Bhagavad Gita, or speaking of Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna tries to answer Arjuna this question, what is best for me and what is my duty? That is what Arjuna asks. And that is where Lord Krishna, first of all, explains Arjuna that, oh my dear Arjuna, you are a soul. You will not die. You will have another life. If you don't behave properly, if you run away from your duty, you need to pay for your lapse of duty in the next life. So please don't do like that. And that is where he progresses the concept of Bhagavad Gita and explains many concepts, span over 700 verses and so on. So that's where I would like to pause my talk here and look for any questions, any comments, and any takeaways. I really sincerely thank from the bottom of my heart that you invited us, the batch of 1996 people, students, to share some of this wisdom that we have taken in our life after we passed out from the university. And I hope you might have find something useful coming out of it. So thank you very much. And with that, all glories to Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Thanks a lot. Hare Krishna. Now we can open up for the questions and comments, any that may have, or any takeaways students would like to, or the faculty may like to share with us. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Sorry for exceeding it a little bit. Could not plan it so tightly. Yeah.
Gupta, sir, I'm Rajat. From
Yes,
Kochi.
Rajat ji, I recognize.
Yeah.
I recognize.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, so there are one or two questions I see in the chat box. So if you can take those questions, that is about goal setting. That how can we decide goal?
Okay, so how can I find what is my goal in life, or what work my life is made for? Okay, good. Oh yeah, there are a number of questions. So how do we do that? One by one. Okay. Doing only karma without hoping anything, very boring. And when life becomes boring, it becomes very difficult to follow karma, and sometimes it is also difficult to do karma. What should we do, sir? So I think I addressed that part in my talk, that doing only karma without hoping anything, very boring. So I mentioned that whatever karma we do does not go waste. So it is motivating. It is not something which is sapping our energy. So what the information what I have given to you in this slide is that if we do this karma, we should understand that the result may not come in this lifetime alone, but the result is going to come for sure, maybe in the next lifetime. Now you might say, Sir ji, क्यों पका रहे हो? अगला जीवन किसने देखा है? That is where we need to have this faith on the concept of soul. If you don't have the faith on the concept of soul, the whole discussion is null and void. It has no meaning. So that is how I would address that question. Doing only karma without hoping anything is very boring. Yes, it is very boring, because what is the point? What is the fun? But when we tell you that the karma is going to bring you a result, certainly, for sure. If you do good, you will get a good result. If you don't do good, you are not going to get, you are actually going to get a bad result. So that makes us responsible. That makes us accountable for what we are doing. It is not simply we just go and slap anyone, or we just go and do whatever nonsense we want to do, because we are going to get that result. But if we act responsibly, we are going to get good result. So that is one thing which makes us responsible and hopeful. The second thing is hopeful, because we are going to get that karma. Maybe not in this lifetime, but in the next lifetime. So that is one question. I hope I have addressed this question by Shivam Mishra. So Shivamji, are you still there? Let me check. Does that address your question, sir? Probably the person has left, but okay. But at least I have addressed it. Maybe you can address Mr. Shivam after you meet him, that I addressed this question, or show him the recording.
Yeah,
then,
we can.
Okay. Then Mr. Deepak is asking another one. Does destiny word have any relation with past, as said in the philosophical definition? So I answered that as well. Yes, it is actually, the definition certainly means that the baggage we bring from the previous life. Now, if we don't have the faith that we don't have any previous life, then that definition of destiny doesn't hold good. So spiritual knowledge and spiritual life should start with some faith. It should start with some shraddha, some little faith that what this book is mentioning to me is okay. And that's how it builds upon. So that is also I have answered. What is soul? Actually, a wonderful question. That is what I would request that we take our next topic. As Arjuna asked this question, Yat Shreshyan Nishchitam Bruhi Tanme, and Lord Krishna actually start explaining about soul. So we would like that this Karmanye Vadikaraste series, as it is naturally unfolding, we take the next topic as soul. Although I have not decided what next topic I'm going to take, but since the question has been asked, naturally we can discuss and spend maybe an hour or so on discussing what is soul. So we can discuss that. So Priyanka Golia ji, does that satisfy your desire or question? Or is it okay? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So Abhishek ji, sorry, I did not ask you. Okay, maybe Abhishek has also asked a question. But before that, Deepak, did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So Abhishek, question next. How can I find what is my goal in life? For what work my life is made for? Oh, wonderful question. And Geeta actually answers that question. For an answer to that question, you need to understand the difference between soul and body. And we need to understand the difference between soul and body. So as souls, as spirit souls, we are immortal. But what is mortal? The mortal thing, the mortal part is body. So we are not this body. We are souls. So when we die, or when we end this present lifetime, our soul, or the soul, actually goes to the next body. The soul goes to the next body, and the previous body is actually destroyed, or maybe it is deteriorated. Now, that is the difference between soul and body. Now, so the one concept is soul, which I am telling that we can discuss next time, but there is a lot about the body. And as I mentioned to you that we bring a baggage from the previous life. So body is part of that baggage. What does body mean? Body means capability. Body means how do we think? What is our intellectual capacity? How strong we are, how tall we are, how beautiful we are, and so on. So, and that also means what skills do we have? What likes and dislikes do we have? And so on. Like in Bhagavad Gita, there are 4 personality types are mentioned: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Brahmana means people who are intellectually oriented. Kshatriya means people who are more administratively oriented, who are more chivalrous, heroic, and so on. Vaishya means people who are more uh, commercially oriented. They have a more propensity towards business, trade, and so on. Shudra means they are generally not as gifted as Brahmana, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. So these people are supposed to support the other personality types. And they are mainly artisans and so on. Now, when you ask me how can I find what is my goal in life and for what work my life is made for? So in order to answer that question, Abhishek ji, you need to have a lot more introspection. You need to have the lot more introspection about yourself, that what are you good at? What attracts you? For example, uh, singing might attract you. Hmm. You are analytical person. You like to do mathematics, you like to do physics, you like to debate, you like to analyze things and so on. Like that, if you like or to introspect yourself and try to understand what is my body actually asking me to do, because this body, this soul, the concept of soul is that the soul is engaged in this body. Soul is not alone. When we are living, like I am sitting and talking to you, the soul is there, and the body, the faculty of speech is coming from where? The faculty of speech is coming from my throat, and throat is part of my body. So the soul is desiring to speak, and through this tool of body, I'm speaking to you, like that. So that body is given to us by the arrangement of the Lord as part of our destiny. Some people are very gifted. Some people you might see, like Vishwanathan Anand. He was a chess prodigy right from the childhood. How was it so? Some people are really very gifted. For example, they are very good singers. Some people are very good authors. Some people are natural, I would say, sports people, and so on. But some others are not. So how does some people are born as males, some people are born as females, some people are born with a different bent of mind, and so on. So how do I find my goal depends upon what propensities as part of our baggage we bring in our life. And that is something for which we need to introspect. We need to analyze ourselves. Others also can help you analyze on that. Oh, Mr. Abhishek, I think you are very good at sports, or maybe you are very good at languages. You have a knack for languages. So why don't you shape your career? Why don't you shape your future so that your liking and your career are same? So the Bhagavad Gita identifies that. So that is what Lord Krishna also mentioned to Arjuna. Arjuna, you are a Kshatriya. You are thinking of escaping the battle and going to the jungle and do the meditation. It won't work for you, because uh, renunciation is mainly meant for Brahmanical people. Renunciation is meant for those people who are much more intellectually inclined. But because you are a Kshatriya, you have that heroic spirit. You have the spirit of leading people. You have the spirit of protecting people. If you falsely take the role of a Brahmana, it will be a calamity. It won't work. That's what Krishna addresses Arjuna. So the short answer to your question is, you need to introspect. You need to observe what others people think about you genuinely. It is not a one-day exercise. Uh, it will take maybe several years or some more time for you to really understand that what you really like, and what you'd like to do. And that what will decide your goal also. As a soul, as a spirit soul, our goal is primarily to certainly go back to the spiritual world, where Lord Krishna is there. That is the primarily goal. That is the ultimate goal. But that may sound like a very far-fetched idea to you right now. So let us not dwell on that idea right now at the moment. Let us focus more on the building blocks. And then maybe at the right time, I will try to introduce you, or one of us will try to introduce you with the concept of spiritual world and so on. So a good question, but I took a lot of time to answer that. But does that address your question, Abhishek ji?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Madam Jahanavi Tarale, I hope I have pronounced the name properly, is asking me another question. Many times situation which comes before us, death of someone close or breaking of some really good relations, something which we thought will never happen, are related to karma or destiny. Exactly. Yes, they are related to karma or destiny. Whatever shocks we are receiving is part of the karma or destiny. But Lord Krishna has given a lot of counsel on how to view these situations. So once the person is able to understand the concept of soul, so when passing of a near and dear one, he takes it very soberly. He understands this is the part of the game. This is part of the bigger plan of the Lord. And this person actually came to my life because the Lord wanted this person to come into my life. And then now this person has taken the exit. Although this person has taken the exit, but the soul of this person still exists. And I would like to pray for the benefit of that soul, that that wherever that soul is at the moment, he be happy, he be safe, and ultimately he actually he finds the right way and the right methods to reach to its ultimate destination, which is the spiritual world, and so on. So that's how Bhagavad Gita actually teaches us. But these are some spiritual world and so on. These are little advanced concepts. We can discuss them little later. So Janvi ji, does that answer your question, madam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you can cross question. We like questions. We like to discuss. Don't think it will be a one-way street. You can always cross question. You can always challenge. So it's a discussion where we don't want to kind of impose ourselves to anyone. It is something which we found useful for ourselves. And as Lord Krishna says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, that, O Arjuna, yathechasi tatha kuru. Now I have spoken this science to you. Now please you decide what is in your benefit or not. So similarly, following the same policy of Lord Krishna, I would say yathechasi tatha kuru. Now this is what we are bringing it to you because we felt that it was wonderful and useful for us. But yathechasi tatha kuru, as you seem fit, as you see right, please decide for yourself. Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you, Anurag. I'd request Professor Gauri Shetty to sum this event up and put his concluding remarks.
Let me come. I think Professor Gauri Shetty may not be here. I am Rajat on behalf of Professor Gauri Shetty speaking. And in fact, the talk given by Anurag ji ignites a young mind to think in more than one way. And this particular questions related to what are our goals in life, what is the ultimate destiny for us, what is soul, what is the relation between soul and body. All these things are so complex that one cannot understand really in 1 hour of talk. But the way, because the language in which Anurag ji spoke, he understands the requirement of engineering graduates, particularly of a IIT system. So that was very interesting to get those common terms which our students speak, and therefore I think it will go for a very good organic growth in the campus, that we will be able to gift this knowledge to our young generation. And right from the early time when they are entering into the corporate world, they will be able to take difficult decisions much easily, because I feel Gita is all about taking right decisions, and how Shri Krishna motivates Arjuna to take the right decision. That is one very important, you can say, output of the entire teaching of Gita. And in that, obviously, there is lot of spiritual side also. So as this journey will go, I think more doubts will be created and more doubts will be answered also. And that will be the real purpose of gifting of knowledge, that it will start churning of our brains. And that was the real purpose of this particular.
Sir, you are muted.
Sorry. So was I muted for the entire?
No.
Solution?
Only for a momentary 5-10
Yeah.
seconds. That's, yeah.
Right. Sorry. So I was saying that on a Sunday morning, you took time for us to gift this knowledge to us. Though this gift will come in some parts, and we also need to be eligible to take this gift. So for Gita to understand that, you need to have a particular level, I feel. And as you already mentioned, that we need to believe, we need to have that Shraddha Bhav in ourselves. Only that we can take the benefit of these knowledge. If we don't have that Shraddha Bhav, we can be argumentative. But that premise of Shraddha Bhav is very, very important. And I think with these few words, I will like to thank batch of 1996, Gunjanji and Anuragji, and all the members of the team who took this initiative to give this knowledge to ITR community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I would then stop sharing my screen and
Yes.
we'll stop
Yeah.
the meeting. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
you can. Ji.
Thank you, Ji.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, sir.